I've been playing Dungeons & Dragons for a long time, and I've always felt that the way spellcasting is done is just weird. I understand that it's a different type of magic system called Vancian magic, and the idea is that you have a finite number of mental spell slots, and once a spell is cast, the spell is basically forgotten until it can be prepared again the next day. You don't get one big mana bar and a bunch of flexible spells that you can use. Instead, you get a bunch of rigid spells that are assigned to a different spell level based on their relative strength. For the sake of game balance, at the time it probably made sense to do it that way. But when it comes to playing a tabletop game, having magic be the most restricted part of the game always felt counterintuitive. Obviously, there's a difference between prepared casters and spontaneous casters, and I'll admit that classes like Sorcerer feel a little bit more natural to me because at least they can in theory have the opportunity to use every spell that they have on their spell list any given day. You still run into the issue though that sorcerers are limited to casting those spells the same way every time. I know that some people might say magic in D&D is flexible because of things like upcasting, instead of the endless possibilities that you would expect when you first got told that you're going to play a sorcerer. Apparently I'm not alone, because warlocks have seemed to become more and more popular over the years as an alternative to this magic system, to the point that it is now a core class. Warlocks are a nice spin on the system, but not really different enough where they make me feel like D&D has a robust spellcasting system. And while it is interesting that you replenish your resources at a different rate than the other casters, I still don't really get the feeling that they have mastered magic. I remember back when I started playing in 3rd edition that people would praise scions and a thing they called PowerPoints, but psionics as a whole really never got enough love to actually win the D&D audience over. I can't really blame anyone for not getting invested in scions, because they aren't really core to the fantasy aesthetic, and I feel like they never got enough options in their designated book to feel like anything more than a playtest that failed to make the final cut. Even though I got used to how Vancian magic worked, I never really liked it. I ended up favoring half-casters, not because I felt like they did spellcasting better, but because I was able to do other things outside of my rigid spellcasting. Even though I was playing less powerful classes, I got to avoid most of the frustrations that came from preparing the wrong spell for combat. If all my spell slots are going towards smite anyways, I can end up being pleasantly surprised whenever I get to use my spells in another scenario. If that scenario never arises, then I can just smite away and nothing of value is lost. But what if there was a way to make spellcasting actually feel dynamic, in a way that is core to all spellcasters? That is where I really think Vagabond's magic system shines. It has a system that I genuinely think every D&D fan should play at least once. Even if you end up not liking anything else about how this game is played, I can promise you this mana system is worth hearing about. Your maximum mana is easy to calculate. It's based on your class, and every spellcasting class has a table for that, plus the spells you know. Full casters have their maximum mana pool based on the simple formula of 4 times their class level, and half casters get a maximum of 2 times their class level. The spells they know can be casted as presented, but the base spell can also be modified. You can compare this against the rigid nature of the Vancian magic system that requires a ton of different spells that kinda do the same thing, but in different shapes and levels of intensity. If you want to be a sorcerer specializing in fire magic in D&D, you obviously are going to be casting Fireball for most of your spell slots, but occasionally you have to fill your spell slots with other fiery things like Wall of Fire or Burning Hands. But in a game like Vagabond, you can simply know one spell called Burn and then change how it's casted each time by adjusting its damage, delivery method, and duration. I love the fact that you can make a spell that is perfect in every situation. If you want to do more damage in one attack, you can upcast the damage of the base spell. The delivery method also has an initial cost and range that it covers. For example, you can choose to do a cone attack that is 15 feet in front of the caster, or you can choose to extend the cone by an additional 5 feet for an additional cost. Be careful though, because it's going to be really easy to burn through most of your mana in a few spells, but those spells are going to feel powerful. Here is an example from the book of how casting a spell works. I want want to cast Burn as a 15-foot radius sphere of flame, with the effect dealing 3d6 damage, and let's keep the effect active. So what does that mean exactly? Honestly, the first few times you're going to try casting a spell, it might be hard to explain exactly what you mean, but here's basically the breakdown of what I just said. In this example, they upped the damage die twice, so that's why there's +2 to mana for additional damage. They wanted everyone that got hit by the spell to get the burn effect, so that's 1 mana right there. He also ended up using a sphere attack. Normally a sphere's base is 5 feet, and that costs 2 mana, but you can add an additional 5 feet for 1 mana each, and since he did it twice, the delivery method is 4 mana. And finally, he mentioned that he wanted to keep it active, so for each turn he's going to spend 1 mana to keep this spell going. So the initial spell is 7 mana, and then it's 1 mana each round going on from there, and it's going to keep hitting any target that's unwilling, and the caster here even has the option to spend additional mana to deal damage. So that right there is a ton going on. It's all explained in a sentence, and you can do hundreds of thousands of combinations like this. Of course, until you're out of mana, because your only real limitation to casting powerful spells is that there's a max amount of mana you can use per cast, which can be found by adding the modifier for your class's key stat plus half your class level rounded up. If the combined total of your custom spell is less than that, and you have enough remaining mana for the day, that means you can try and cast the spell. I won't go into detail about rolling to actually hit the spell too much, because this is more of a showcase of how awesome Vagabond spellcasting is than the combat system itself. But to summarize it here briefly, the core philosophy of the game is that enemies are always guaranteed to succeed, unless the heroes stop them by making a save or dodging their attack. You as the hero also have to roll when you cast spells or use weapons to strike them down. You're the good guys, you get to make all the rolls. They only fail if you stop them. And I'm personally a fan of that style of game. If you want to find out more, you can check out Vagabond's Kickstarter, where you can get a copy of their 3rd printing of the core book, and their 1st printing of their 1st ever expansion. You can use my link in the description below, as it helps the channel too. I've been excited to cover Vagabond for a long time, and now I finally get a chance to promote a game that I really enjoy. If you guys enjoyed this video, I'm open to doing more stuff like this, but I want it to be a situation where I'm making it alongside my other content as fun bonus episodes, and not as a replacement. Make sure to check out my 2nd channel, Luke Goblinomicon, because it's likely going to be on there. But like seriously though, check out the Kickstarter. Between the 2 books you get like 30 ancestries, 27 classes, and over 60 of those highly customizable spells that I covered in the video. I also linked his stuff on DriveThruRPG in case the Kickstarter link ever stops working, and I'm actually working on some homebrew of my own for this game. Let me know if you want to see an actual play. I really hope you guys like this game. And as always, I hope to see you in the next video. Farewell for now.